Hi there. I'm going to go through some concepts and some analysis of my most recent video, the Rainbow Portal, Silver Ray and the Two Worlds Split, Winter Solstice 2017. So I've got the words here to that channeling, and I'm going to go through because I do feel this was quite an important channeling as we approach the end of this year. And it's quite multi-layered. There's a lot of information there that's heavily coded. And I feel that an analysis would be a good thing to have. One thing I would say, though, is that the analysis that I come up with is my perspective and my own interpretation of this language, of this information. And to bear in mind that the original information, the original stream, the original message from the nine is that aspect that is a greater perspective, that has a greater periphery, a greater view, especially with time. That aspect can see a much wider view of time than I can in the third dimension. And so therefore, my analysis of this is literally my third dimensional perspective. Whereas you may watch the video, the Rainbow Portal, Silver Ray and the Two Worlds Split, Winter Solstice 2017. You may see something I haven't seen. You may interpret the original channeled message in a different way to me. And that doesn't mean that you're wrong and I'm right. It means that your interpretation is just as valid as mine. So if you do have anything extra to add that you feel is important to look at, please write that in the comment section. So starting at the beginning, as you move into the final month of your year of 2017, the extreme polarization of humanity becomes tangible and noticeable. That which has been hidden and in the shadows, clear and obvious only to those who stand aware and walk the enlightenment path, moves into the path of those who still sleep, presenting us as a shining beacon of unknown origin and pattern. So the first line, as you move into the final month of your year of 2017, we're moving into December, the end of the year, the extreme polarization of humanity becomes tangible and noticeable. So what they're saying here, in my opinion, is that the extreme polarization of humanity has been around for some time. Humanity has been polarized in an extreme sense, light and dark, this belief and that belief, this paradigm and that paradigm, this group and that group. And polarization suggests two. So while we've got many, many, many different groups and belief systems and paradigms right across this planet, a great many, polarization suggests they're looking at two extremes specifically. Let's call these extremes A and B for argument's sake. But these are polarized. So no, A and B isn't a particularly good example. No, what I'm looking for is light and dark, night and day, moon and sun, hot and cold, that sort of thing. So it's an opposing energy. One group over here, one group over here. And this isn't necessarily referring to service to self and service to others either, even though that in itself is a polarity and it is an extreme polarization. And that is the polarization of the third dimension. I mean, we do have service to self and service to others, and that is very much part of the polarization. But it isn't just that. That's been around for, well, since the beginning of our known history. And has it been there before that? Yes. So that's been there prior to our known history. What I'm also talking about is a polarization even amongst the service to self energy and the service to others energy. So the service to self energy is polarized. The service to others energy is polarized, even though the service to self and the service to self energies are polarized in themselves. So there's polarization going on in the groups themselves. Does this suggest that the service to self groups are polarized, as in extremely divided? It does. And does this suggest that service to others energy is also extremely divided? It does. But with polarization, we're looking at dualistic energy. We're looking at two extremes, and we can see this in the different areas of life. Belief systems, paradigms, none more so evident than in the political system, but also in the amongst the aware individuals, as in aware individuals and non-aware individuals, or aware individuals aware of this and aware individuals aware of that. So there's polarization going on in an extreme way that has become, and it says here, becomes tangible and noticeable. It's become more obvious than before. So that's not to say that there hasn't been polarization within these groups, within politics, within religion, within paradigms, within communities, within the service to self and the service to others energies. There has always been polarization. That is the nature of the third dimension, but it's never been so obvious. Is this to do with the internet? In a way, yes, because the internet has given us a window into these belief systems and communities. The internet's given us a window into where the polarization lies. And also, what's actually happened is the polarization has been manipulated, if you like, deliberately pushed into one corner or another in order to divide humanity, in order to divide the service to others groups and prevent unification. And one of the ways, this has been done in many ways, but one of the ways it's been done is through the media. So the media has been able to control the belief systems of those watching the media, with a minority few questioning the media. And even if they do question the media, there's no backup there, because they're not really in touch with other individuals all across the world at the same time in order to compare what their opinions are of the media. And since the internet has come in as a backdoor media and become, as we now know, very much a front door media. And so the internet's given us a window into the opinions and belief systems of everyone else, backing up our own. So that's been a major player in allowing us to see the polarizations and the manipulations of the service to self groups and the prevention of unity. That also, within this polarization, this extreme polarization of humanity, that's also become tangible and noticeable. That which has been hidden and in the shadows, well, that which has been hidden. So the things we can't see, the things that have been kept from us, which has not been in the glare of the spotlight, it's not been presented in the media. The only things that have been presented in the media have been the things that the controlling factions have wanted the service to self groups to see, that they've wanted us to see. So that's that's been hidden and in the shadows is outside of the spotlight, outside of the media, outside of the mainstream, and to a great extent outside of our own awareness. It's been down in our own subconscious as well. Clear and obvious only to those who stand aware and walk the enlightenment path. So individuals taking a path of enlightenment, a path of ascension, individuals who hold that awareness, they clearly see that which is hidden. They clearly see the shadows. They see this in the tangible physical dimension, in the third dimension. They see beyond what is in the media. They see the patterns behind everything. They can tell when something is a falsehood and when something is true. And it's the same with their own subconscious. They're starting to look at their subconscious reality. So these shadows in themselves aren't buried anymore. They're coming up to the fore. They're becoming aware of them. That's what the path of enlightenment is. And that's what standing aware means. You're aware not only of the outer world and the world that you live in and that you're presented with, and all the shadows that are going on there and the manipulations that are going on there, but you're aware of your own shadows and things that have been buried. So non-aware and non-enlightened is someone who is not aware of what's going on in the physical dimension around them and in the third dimensional world. They're not aware of them, of the manipulations, and they're not aware of their own shadow. Their own issues are buried. So this is multi-layered. Moves into the path of those who still sleep. So that's massive. I mean, that really is. I know we've got a long video here. It's one of the longer videos that I've done. I've got several pages here of printout. This is why I'm doing the analysis, because you could miss this. You probably wouldn't if you're aware, but you could. Moves into the path of those who still sleep. It's one sentence in this entire channeling, but it's so important and so deep. What does this mean? When someone is sleeping and they're not aware, the shadow is buried, which is in a way for their own good. It's a defense mechanism because they're not ready. They haven't reached the level of awareness to be able to look at their shadow. They're not ready to do that work of digging deep and raising the subconscious. It's a defense mechanism. The brain, the mind does this so that they can function in the third dimension. And the same with the outside world and the third dimension around them. They aren't ready to see the manipulations, the hidden shadow. They're not ready, and they have buried their heads in the sand. It's a case of, I don't want to look at that. It's too painful. And that's outside of them. But this triggers what's inside of them. It triggers their own deeply buried issues. And they're also saying, I don't want to look at this. It's too painful. So this becomes obvious to those who still sleep. That which has been hidden and in the shadows moves into the path of those who still sleep. So people who are not aware and are not enlightened are starting to see this hidden reality in the third dimension, and they're starting to see the shadows within their own self. It presents as a shining beacon because it's so strong, it's so obvious, it's so clear, but it's a shining beacon of unknown origin and pattern. They see this shining beacon, but they can't decode it. They don't know what it is. So you have basically got the sleeping world. Many would call these people sheeple. I don't necessarily like that term, but it's a common one amongst the truther communities. I think it was probably coined by David Icke, I imagine. But you've got the sheeple, the people who still sleep, the people who follow, who don't know what they're doing, who don't understand about the true reality. They're being presented with the shadow on all these levels, and they can't bury it anymore. They can't say, I don't want to look at that anymore, goodbye. In the past, it was dark, so they could push it away and rise above the shadow and continue to function in the third dimension, burying, ignoring, turning away. They weren't ready. But now, according to this information here from the 9, presenting as a shining beacon. So that's blinding. This is where the 9 use the constant metaphor. It's blinding, as in they can't bury it. It's not dark anymore. It's a shining beacon. It's bright. They have to look at it, but they can't analyze it. They don't know what it is. It's a beacon of unknown origin and pattern. Where did this come from? I don't know its origin. I don't know what it is. And I don't understand the pattern. So this is happening to everybody. This is happening to everybody. So the aware individuals are able to decode that pattern. They've been looking at this for a long time. That's why they're aware and enlightened. And the unenlightened and the unaware, those who still sleep, are seeing it too, but don't know what it is. So imagine, put yourself in that situation. I mean, you could easily say, oh, well, it's their own fault. They've had the internet. They've been able to go and research. They've been able to do the truth. The truth is out there. And, there's a point to that. But also there are individuals who are distracted, and they've been distracted deliberately. In that respect, it's not their own fault, if you like, on a third dimensional level, even though we create our own reality and everything that happens to us is of our own making. When somebody's been infiltrated and distracted deliberately, and they fall for that distraction. They follow that distraction. So it's dragging them away from looking, and they haven't been able to find the time, I suppose, or the space to become enlightened. Now, this beacon of truth is in their face. The shadow is like looming up and shining like a beacon in front of them, their own shadows and the shadows in reality. So I would say put yourself in their position, because I know that amongst the aware individuals, there are those who are very, very understanding and compassionate towards those that sleep. And there are other individuals who are irritated with the people who sleep, who are annoyed with them, who feel, well, it's your fault that the truth isn't known because none of you will wake up and look at the truth. And I can understand both of these points of view. It is frustrating when you've seen truth for so long and the rest of the world refuses to see it. But if you look at the other side of the coin, which is they've been deliberately distracted, just as we all have, and it's not always easy to escape the that trapping, that net of the system, and the system is set up to distract. So I feel that if you are annoyed or irritated with those that are asleep, I totally understand that, and that there isn't anything wrong with you feeling that way. But what I would say to you is, now we really are approaching a time, as this entire message, this entire transmission is showing, we're approaching a time when that truth is becoming known. And for those people who are asleep, whether it's their fault or not, however you want to look at it, however irritated you can be with them, bear in mind what they will go through when they are faced with something that they simply cannot decode and do not understand. This is incredibly stressful for these people and painful for them. And who do they have to turn to for help? It isn't the individuals that created the system. It's not, oh, help us please, governments. It isn't. They aren't able to turn there, because within that controlling or supposed controlling benevolent caring government, they are not going to find what they're looking for in that, as that also is deeply polarized and incredibly controlled and manipulated, as anyone aware is aware of. So who do they turn to? They turn to the aware individuals, and somewhere every single sleeping individual, non-aware, non-enlightened individual, will know someone who is awake, aware, and enlightened. Now, they may have a disharmonious relationship with them, because that person will have been triggering that shadow, and they will have been saying no, 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 and pushing them away. They will have not wanted to look there. So there may be an antagonistic, disharmonious energy there. But when it comes to the point where they're seeing something as bright as a beacon, they're confused. They don't know what it is. At first, their defense mechanisms will come in. They will ignore it. They will try to rationalize it. But it stays there, shining like a beacon. Eventually, ignoring and rationalizing isn't going to work, because that beacon that is the shadow is getting brighter and brighter and brighter. So eventually they will turn to the people who seem to have some of the answers on some level. That's how they will see it. So you, as an aware individual, you will have people coming to you. You may stand as someone who's the brunt of their frustrations, which comes later in this transmission, but you may also stand as the person who greatly helps them. So this is very much your role, if you choose to step into that role. It is for the aware and the enlightened to continue the work that they have committed themselves to, that of assisting with the awakening of humanity. The healers stand by, ready to catch the falling unaware and sleeping humanity as they are presented with the hidden reality. So this is more or less what I've just said. The aware and enlightened individuals to continue the work they've committed themselves to. So there are many, many, many enlightened and aware that have made a commitment on a soul level before they were even incarnated, but then they've reinforced and reaffirmed that commitment through their awareness. And that is assisting with the awakening of humanity and the raising of the vibration of planet Earth, which goes with that. So those people are continuing with that path that they've been doing for a long time. Now, there may be some that are awakened and aware that haven't reaffirmed that commitment yet. And it is a choice. You don't have to. You don't have to. It's your absolute choice to choose. If you don't want to help aware and aware humanity, you don't want to assist with the awakening of humanity, you don't have to. But you will be assisting by virtue of your awakening, because your awakening creates a code within the matrix field. And I'm not talking about the system, I'm talking about the universal fabric. And that code starts to then have an effect and a consequence. So just simply awakening without a commitment, you're still going to be assisting with the awakening of others. So it's your choice whether you actually make a conscious commitment and say, you know what, I'm aware, I'm awake, I understand this and I understand this, and I'm now making a commitment to help all I can. That is a very positive commitment to make, and it is a commitment that any starseed that is polarized service to others within their energetic field, they will have made that commitment prior to their incarnation, and it will be within their blueprint to reaffirm and recommit to that. The healers stand by, ready to catch the falling unaware. So the falling unaware, they're falling, and this is their emotions. They are shocked, grief-stricken, upset, confused. They fall. They're unable to stand in a cohesive way within their reality and find joy, because the shadow has loomed up in this bright beacon and is glaringly showing itself to them. They can't run away from it. They can't push it down. They can't ignore it. It makes them fall. Not necessarily all of them, but some. So the healers, that's anyone with healing energy, that would include conscious healers who work as healers for a living, but also those who are service to others polarized. They will be healers naturally, even though they're not necessarily consciously doing healing in their third dimensional reality. They also stand by, ready to catch the falling unaware. So the falling unaware may be your family, could be your mother, your sister, it could be your children, your friends, your neighbors, your co-workers, but also it could be that you are writing a book and the falling unaware are people reading your book, or you could be speaking online, making videos, like I'm doing, and the falling unaware are people watching the videos, or you could be a public speaker, or you could be a musician and the falling unaware are listening to your music. And these codes are coming through in non-verbal ways as well. In your month of December 2017, this is the energetic that shall be presented so clearly. The energetic of extreme polarization and the sudden awakenings and realizations of humanity as they are presented with that which has been hidden from their view and from their experience. So December 2017, and the nine are specific about this month, the energetic for this month, and I mean, from what I'm seeing, this energetic is beyond December. It's been around for a while and it's going beyond, but it seems to be quite rooted from what I can see through the eyes of the nine, if you like. It seems to be quite rooted in December very strongly, almost as though it wasn't quite as strong prior to December, and it changes and lifts somewhat after December. So it looks as though something is occurring this month. And that the energetic of that occurrence or event is extreme polarization and sudden awakenings and sudden realizations. So what this would be interpreted as is extreme polarization. One group of people with one belief system or awareness or agenda, whatever it may be, with an opposing group of individuals with the opposing agenda, the opposing belief system, and the opposing level of knowledge, however that may be interpreted. So that's very much a strong energy for December 2017 specifically, and sudden awakenings. Now, that would suggest that there are individuals who have no knowledge whatsoever of this hidden reality, and it's like bang, right in front of them in December. So I would interpret that as some kind of reveal reaching the mainstream in this month. That's how I would interpret this information. Not all shall catch the full presentation of the hidden reality, yet all shall be touched by its presence. The distraction within the period of time around Yule, the winter solstice, known to many as Christmas or Christmas, will act somewhat as a buffer for the shock-style awakening that is presented. So not everyone is going to catch the full presentation of the hidden reality. So that beacon of shadow, it's not going to be obvious to everybody. They won't be catching it, yet all shall be touched by its presence. So everyone is touched by this, whatever this is, in December 2017, this polarization and this realization, this sudden awakening, sudden knowledge, whatever this may be, everyone is touched by its presence. And Yule, the winter solstice, Christmas, Christmas, this time period, and specifically the distraction within this time period. So this would suggest that this time period is utilized as a deliberate distraction. And I know this to be the case looking at the layers of what the energy is in this time period. So you have Yule, which is an understanding of energy when it comes to time and the seasons. And the winter solstice is the same, an understanding of energy when it comes to time and the seasons, an understanding of what this energy is, and a connection to the energy, living in harmony with the energy. So you have Yule and you have the winter solstice. And Christ Mass also holds a lovely energy, because you have this gathering together of many, connecting with the Christ consciousness, whether they do this through religion or spirituality or through Jesus Christ or Christ consciousness. It all depends on the emotional makeup and the belief system of the individual, not necessarily the path that they are following. But then you look deeper into these layers and see sort of Christmas, and then you've got this distraction energy, and this is going in to the religions as well as the actual time period and the event of Christmas itself. So you will have the standard distractions that are there in most, if not all, religions. The difference of opinion and the difference of historical fact and all the things there. But then you've got this sort of pinpointed deep layer that is the distraction of Christmas itself, and that is where the manipulations are coming in. So it's almost as though this beautiful energetic time that should be a rejoicing and a coming together and a unification and a love energy and a healing energy is hijacked into, you have to spend money, you have to buy all this stuff, you have to go around all the shops, you don't have time to concentrate on anything or meditate or be spiritual or go to work even. You have to just go to the shops and buy these presents and spend all this money, and it puts an incredible strain on everybody because they worry about buying the right thing and having enough money to afford to buy, and the whole energy, the whole emotional energy is like a superimposed, hijacked energy. And it's very, very intertwined with Yule, the winter solstice, and Christ Mass. It's all infiltrating through that. the only way to detach from the control system and the distraction is to find an emotional reaction to your own belief system. So you remove the belief system and go back to the genuine harmonious energy of Yule, the winter solstice, and Christ Mass, Christmas, and you look at the energetic of the time. That doesn't mean you don't go to the shops and you don't buy presents. Of course you can, but it's when buying presents and spending money and doing all these things and having to go to all these meetings, it's when that becomes stressful and harmful, and it's a suffocating negative energy. That is what the aware individuals and aware humanity and the starseeds will be stepping out of completely. And there are ways to move into the energy of Christmas, Yule, the winter solstice, without going into those emotions. And if you don't have a lot of money, then it isn't about buying an expensive present. I know I'm totally going off topic here, and this has nothing to do with this particular channeling really, other than that distraction that the Nine is speaking about. But I do think it's important to say at this time of year, you don't have to spend lots of money. It's about giving of yourself. What do you have to offer? What's your talent? Can you write a little book and just maybe print out some pictures and give everyone that? Could you make a little flower arrangement with maybe some flowers from your garden and some, fir cones? Could you create a picture? Just go and get some canvas, or even just use paper and draw some art. I mean, there are so many ways to use your own personal creativity to create gifts. And you know what? They're so meaningful. When I receive a present from someone who has made something, the energy of it opens my heart so much more. The next level would be a present where somebody has been very thoughtful, because they know that present, that gift, it is meaningful to you. That's also just as lovely. But I'm not saying I don't like presents that are just like, a box of handkerchiefs or some bubble bath. Of course, I love presents, but I am one of the individuals that's removed myself from that distraction, so I can enjoy this time of year regardless of what happens, really, because within reason, but regarding money and presents and gatherings, I've removed myself as much as I possibly can. It is hard, and I've got children and I've got grandchildren, so obviously I do have to buy presents but I've tried to do the best I can to remove myself from the distraction and the controlled manipulation that is the consumerism around Christmas, because that's a major energy amongst the system. It's this consumerism and money, and everybody's out to sort of sell their items in these big corporations. Somebody gave me a present recently, and it's a picture, and she actually does workshops where she teaches. In fact, it's my friend Heike Jenkins. She's got a website, and she does these workshops where everyone learns to make a picture, and she'll collect things, take people down to the beach and collect shells, and she has like little sequins and feathers, and they're just gorgeous. And she recently gave me one, and the energy behind the giving of that gift and the receiving of that gift, it's not just because she's an aware starseed and I'm an aware starseed and we both understand the giving of gifts. That's part of it, but it's the fact that the gift was made. It's just so beautiful. And so what I'm getting at here is you can do that. You can go and get some shells off the beach or wherever, and it doesn't have to be money. I know it's difficult though with mothers with children, with parents who have children, because obviously there's this huge expectation and there's all this sort of control within the children's social lives and at school, and this competition. Again, this is a hijacked energy. You will find that the children that are educated at home or that are educated in the alternative education systems, such as the Rudolf Steiner Waldorf schools or the Montessori schools, they'll have a different approach to Christmas. There'll be that they will find a way to access that joy. It will be part of that education system, whereas the mainstream system, and I can specifically speak for the UK, I'm not sure how that is across the world in other countries, but certainly here in the United Kingdom, the mainstream schools, there is this element of competition there. You know, what will you get for Christmas? And I want this and I want that and all these expensive presents. This puts a pressure upon parents, especially young parents. So I do understand that. But that there's always a way. There's always a way as a family to access the energetic of Christmas, just the togetherness of one another. That there's a way to access the energetic of Christmas, the true energetic, the winter solstice, the Yule, the Christ Mass, the Christ consciousness unity, without allowing yourself to become embroiled and lost within the consumerism. And that's part of a deliberate distraction. So that's all part of what the nine are talking about here. The distraction within the period of time around Christmas will somewhat act as a buffer for the shock style awakening that's presented. So this awakening, this event, this delivering of knowledge occurring in this December month seems to be energetically coinciding with Christmas and the lead up to Christmas. So the distraction of Christmas this year, whilst it's always been sort of quite a negative energy, all the consumerism and the pressure around that, it's actually going to act as a buffer. So whatever it is that's being delivered, whatever event it may be, and obviously I don't know what that is, other than an awareness of the shadow presenting itself, this hidden reality presenting itself in December. Christmas is acting somewhat as a buffer. So is that a positive thing? I would say it is in the event that a buffer is actually preventing the sort of the jolt, the shock. So it's like cushioning that shock somewhat. So but everything is pointing to December, to this month. So that's what I would interpret this, certainly this first bit of the transmission. So that's everything for my analysis and communication today. And I will be back to talk more about this transmission. And thank you for listening, and see you again soon. Bye. We are now at a time in our planetary evolution known as ascension. Those individuals we can call starseeds are currently in their millions and are collectively going through this awakening process. In this book, the nine bring forward memory triggers designed to act as a catalyst into the awakening process. They present a model of working with the individualized matrix field, known also as the Merkaba, through matrix architecture, Merkaba magic, and the golden triad of ascension, presenting an in-depth analysis and explanation of the twin flame consciousness and how this relates to the ascension, as well as providing triggers to the collective memory experience known as Atlantis. This transmission is designed to trigger your multidimensional memory as you begin the construction of the Merkaba matrix and embrace the inner archetype of the architect. The triggers contained within this material are there to assist you in accessing the codes for the new formation of the original crystalline DNA matrix. I, Magenta Pixie, am so happy to present this transmission to you from the White-Winged Collective Consciousness of Nine. Divine architecture and the starseed template.